Hi everybody, and welcome to another edition of Teach Me to Code. This is Charles Max Wood, and this week we're going to talk about RVM. Now RVM is the Ruby version manager, and rather than go into some of the details, I'm just going to preface it by saying that there's a lot of talk lately about Ruby 1.9 and Rails version 3.0, which is coming out. It's currently in beta. And so if you want to test one or both of those out, you can do that by using RVM rather than having to compile and install a version of Ruby on your machine and then manage switching back and forth. I'll go into a little bit more of what it does, but since it takes a little bit of time for it to compile versions of Ruby onto your machine, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to install it, and then we'll get going into some of the goodies while we're waiting for it to install. Okay? So the first thing that you want to do is to install, you just do sudo gem install RVM. This is the way I did it. It's not necessarily the recommended way that they do it because Wayne Seguin, who's the author of RVM, recommends that you pull from GitHub and install it that way. And if you want information, you can go to the website here. It's rvm.beginrescueend.com, and if you look right here, there's a link to install, and it tells you how to install it. It's pretty easy either way that you do it, but I'm kind of a weirdo when it comes to the gems, and I like to have them installed. Also, before I get going too far into this, I want to mention that I'm using a different microphone this time. It's the one on my headset, so if you notice a difference in the audio quality from last time to this time, that's what it is, and I'd really like your feedback as to whether or not you thought this was better than what was going on last time. So anyway, once you've done this, you have to run RVM install. It tells you that right here. So you just do RVM-install, and it does it really quickly. Now from there, all this is telling you to do is you open up your bash rc file, and then bash profile, and you just include this line right here into it. I already have this in my bash rc, so I'm going to show you how to do it, but I'm not actually going to copy and paste it in there. So you would effectively copy it, and then you do a vim.bashrc, and then you just copy it right here. Boom. And you'll notice the line is a little bit different, but the tilde there is this /users/chuck. That's the only difference. So anyway, now you have RVM installed. So now you can get into some of the cool things that you can do with it. So we'll do an RVM install. Let's just get the latest version. So ruby-head is the latest version. That's 1.9.2, and it pulls it from the head of the repository. Let's see. A newer version of RVM has been installed that is loaded. Please do one of the following. So this is from the last time I recorded this. I recorded it and then Camtasia crapped out on me, so I apologize for that. So anyway, RVM, reload, and then here we go. So you can see right here it's pulling from the Subversion repository, svn.ruby.schlang.org, repos, ruby trunk. You can actually check out from there, from what I understand. But this is just going and pulling the latest stuff. So I previously recorded this on Saturday night, and it's now Monday evening, and you can see that it's going to actually go out and pull the latest stuff. So if there have been any changes over the weekend, I'm going to get them right here and now. And this takes a little bit of time, so I'm just going to switch away from this for a minute and just kind of run through the website and show you some of the stuff that it does, and then we'll go back and I'll actually demonstrate some of it. But in a nutshell, what RVM does is it manages different versions of Ruby. along with gems, and you can see right here gem management. So if you are testing out Rails 3, or you want to test out a particular plugin for Rails or gem for Ruby or anything like that, you have those options. Now there are several interpreters that you can get, and I'm just going to show you quickly what they are. You can get Ruby, you can get Rubinius, you can get JRuby, Ruby Enterprise Edition, Maglev, Iron Ruby, Mac Ruby, and I'm not sure what Input is. I haven't ever used it. But if you click on this link here, it tells you what's here, and it tells you some of the versions that you can install. Also, while this is installing Ruby here, we'll just open up another tab over here, and let me increase the size a little bit here so you can see it better. Alright, so let's go over some of the install options while we're waiting for this to install, and we'll just check on this real quick. You can see that it's still checking stuff out. It takes it a while, so you need to be aware that it will take a little bit of time. If you want a particular version of Ruby, you just do RVM install and then the version number 1.9.1, for example, and it'll pull the latest stable version of Ruby, which is 1.9.1. You can also get 187 or 186. You can also specify patch levels. So at work we're using patch level 174. So you can do the RVM install 1.8.7 patch level 174, it'll pick it up. You can also do revision numbers. I don't know any revision numbers off the top of my head, but I'll show you where you can get the information for revision numbers off of your installed versions of Ruby in a minute. One other thing that is really handy, if you want to use a particular version, you just do RVM use and then the version. So RVM use Ruby head. So it's saying that it's not installed, probably because I actually told it to install over here. I had it installed previously. But let's do this. Let's do RVM use 1.9.1. So then it switched over to 1.9.1. If you don't have the version, let's see, I'm not sure. Let's list all the versions that I have really quickly. RVM list, I think it is. Okay, so this shows you all the versions that I have. So I don't have version 1.186, for example. Now, one thing that's nice is that there's an option when you do the RVM use to have it install it when you call use. And in order to do that, what you do is you do the vim.rvmrc. It has its own configuration file. And then you put this flag in, rvm_install on use flag equals 1. And that will set you up so that when you do something like RVM use, and then let's say I do 1.8.6, then it'll actually go ahead and install it. I'm not going to do that because we're already running this installation over here. One other thing that you can do is you can actually install gems on these different versions. So we're using 1.9.1 right now, and when you install the gems, they actually will use different versions of Ruby. So if you're going to install gems, now typically you would install them to the system with a sudo gem install. Here you don't want to do that, because if you do that, then it'll install it to the system and it won't install it locally to this version of Ruby. So you can just do gem install, let's get mongrel. Gem install mongrel, and you just let it do its thing, and it'll pick it up right here. Now if you open another shell, we'll just increase the size here for a minute so you can see it. If you do a gem list here, then it'll pull all of the system gems that are installed, because the Ruby version is set per instance of your bash shell. So you see this has all of the gems that I've installed to the system, and this guy has only the ones that are installed here, and you can see that there was an error installing Mongrel for whatever reason. But you also can see here that it did pick up CGI multipart and fast thread. So there, there's a bunch of stuff going on, and you can do whatever you need to do there. One other thing that you can do to inspect the environment here is you can do an RVM info, and what that does is that gives you all the information for the gem, or for this particular version of Ruby. So let's just show you real quick. This is all the system information, so this is the information for my machine. I'm using a bash shell. The interpreter is the Ruby interpreter as opposed to Rubinius or one of the others. Version 1.9.1. This is just the last update. The platform. This is the patch level, and you see the revision right here. So if you wanted to pick it up by revision rather than by patch level, you could do an RVM install 1.9.1-R26273. Oh, and I neglected to mention that you have to specify which interpreter you want at the beginning. So Ruby-1.9.1 or RBX- and then whatever version of Rubinius that you want. You can do that with JRuby or any of the others as well. So it's pretty much limitless as to what you're looking for, what you can pick up. Now you can see here that there's a home, and this is just where all the binaries are stored. So if you just do hang on, and I realize that this may be below the end of the screen, so let's just scroll up here. Let's just tighten this up. Okay, so let's do ls user chuck.rvm gems 1.9.1. Am I in the right place? No, it doesn't look like it. So let's try it this way. ls, let's just do a $RVM gemder. And so you can see this looks a lot like library Ruby gems. See, you have the same thing. Cache, gems, doc, specifications. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you're looking at. Your Ruby executables. Oh, here we go. So this is where your binaries are. So RVM, Rubies, Ruby 1.9, bin. So you get all the information about where things are and what they're doing. One other thing to note is the location of the IRB-RC, and this is the configuration file for your IRB instance. And so, if there are gems or anything else that you want installed when you run IRB under Ruby 1.9, then you need to make sure that they're included in there. We showed you gem list, or RVM list. Another really neat one is RVM list known, and that will actually show you a bunch of different versions of Ruby that you have available to you. So you can call into any of these, and the parentheses make them optional. So Ruby Dash is optional on these. You can get these JRuby versions. You can get the pre-release here, and it'll also tell you which ones are the default. So if you do RBX, you're going to get -PRC1. And so if you want it from the head revision on the repository, then you need to go ahead and do RBX-head. And I think you can get head revisions on just about everything. Now, one other nice thing about RVM is that it helps you manage your gems. And so you can do this. You can do an RVM gem set, create, and then we'll just call it R3 for Rails 3. So now we have R3 created, but you'll note that we're not actually using it. RVM info. See, we're still using the current gemset, which pulls from these two locations. So what we need to do then is we need to do an RVM use 1.9.1% R3. So now you can see that we're using the gemset here with gemset R3. So then if we do our gem list, we'll see that there's nothing there. So what do we need to do? We need to gem install Rails. I think it's -- pre. I don't remember exactly. But that'll actually take a minute to run. Let's just try it. Over 13 minutes of it actually installing Rails 3. But you can see that it's installed now, so now if we do the gem list, it'll show Rails 3 and all of its dependencies. As opposed to right here where it showed only rake and Ruby Gems update. But again, if we switch off of this gemset, so RVM use 1.9.1, which takes us back to the default 1.9.1 gemset with no gemset really, but there is a default one. So anyway, when we do the gem list, you see that it has a different version of Rails 2.3.5, and that's from me playing with it earlier. Now if we switch over here to where we first called this install Ruby head, you'll see that it has been almost a half hour and it's still running. Sorry, we had a technical glitch there. Basically what I was saying was that if you have a heavier duty machine that has more processing power, more memory and things like that, you know what? Cut off the front. I'm going to start over. Alright, so it's completed running. It took about a half hour to install Ruby, the latest version of Ruby. I had a little bit of technical glitch and I recorded this, but such is life. Anyway, so we've switched over to use Ruby head, and we just did a quick Ruby -v, and you can see that it's running 1.9.2 dev as the Ruby version. It has some information about the trunk and I think it's the revision number there off of the trunk, which is the Subversion repository. And you can see here that it took a half hour, but at the same time, this is not a top of the line machine. I have about 2 gig of RAM. I think it's a dual core, but I had the recording software running, plus this running, plus I was doing all the demos and installing Rails for about 13 minutes of it. So all in all, you can see here that it it really did go slow. But if you don't have it committed to all of that kind of stuff, I would assume that on your professional machines that it would probably run more quickly. But even still, I mean, if you tell it to install Ruby, go take your lunch break. When you come back, it'll be installed, and then you can do all your testing. So I highly recommend this as a system that you can use to test out Ruby. You can test out Rails in particular versions of Ruby. If you're going to do an upgrade, what I recommend is that you either upgrade Rails or Ruby and then switch and upgrade the other. And that way you can deal with any issues that Ruby 1.9 brings up, which some things actually do work differently in 1.9 than in 1.8. So you need to be aware of those, especially if you're depending on gems or plugins to give you extra functionality in your Ruby on Rails app. And then you can upgrade the other, and there are some issues upgrading from Rails 2 to Rails 3. And there are a lot of helpers out there, and maybe I'll do a quick screencast on what some of those are. But if you throw it all together, then you don't really get a good idea of where to look for the problems that you're having. because the problems will show up in the libraries you're using, and you won't know if it was Ruby or Rails that made the difference. So that's pretty much all I have here. I do want to point out that I'm looking at creating some 10-minute videos that I can put on YouTube that will help people. And so if you have any suggestions of things that I can cover in 10 minutes as opposed to 20 or 30 minutes, which is the format that these take, I would appreciate you putting those suggestions into our video suggestion, and I'll see if I can get those in. I'm also planning on taking several of the ideas out of those suggestions and doing those over the coming weeks. I'd also be interested in knowing when you would like these released, as I've been taking over for Eric. He's got some other projects that he's working on, and he's asked me to take over these Ruby on Rails casts and Ruby casts. So if you have any suggestions as far as like when I release them to iTunes, or if you would like to have them embedded as QuickTime videos versus Flash videos, or any information like that, I would really love to know that. So just email me, chuck@teachmetocode.com, and I'll check that out, and we'll see where we can go from there. Thanks. Jumpstart Lab offers private and corporate training in Ruby, Rails, and related technologies. They are experienced educators, not just good developers, and will get you going quickly. Courses can be scheduled in the US or around the world, and curriculum customized to meet your needs. Learn more at jumpstartlab.com. This episode is sponsored by ClutterPad, the most awesome online project management and collaboration tool ever. Sign up now at www.clutterpad.com.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!